89.3.
89.3.
4CRB.
And a very good morning to you. It's John Fradgley from the Bell Legal Group, back with you for another program of The Law and You. This is your opportunity to get free legal advice between now and 9:30. Just get on that telephone. 55208888 is the number. 55208888. And of course, don't forget that you can send through questions to our email here at 4CRB. So that would be talkback, all one word, at 4crb.com. So if for any reason you're not able to get to the phone, but are able to get access to an email, better to get the questions to us before the start of the program, though. If you're going to send them by email, I did in fact receive one email which came through last night, which I have here and I'll deal with shortly. But otherwise, the best way to get an answer to your question or query is to get on that telephone, 55208888. And of course, if you can call sooner than later, because quite often we do get a build-up of calls towards the end of the program, which we can't, of course, continue on past the 9:30 time, because we have the local news coming in at 9:30. Don't forget, of course, south the Tweed River, put 07 in front of the number, otherwise you'll get straight through on 55208888. And as I mentioned, we did have a question, or we have a query that's come in by email from Peter, and it relates to a rather horrendous event that happened a couple of weeks ago for them, when they received a call to say that two German shepherds that live in the house next door were in their backyard, and they'd apparently dug a hole under the fence and crawled under there. And by the time Peter's wife got home, the dogs had managed to go through the small doggy door at the back of their house. Peter and his wife, have a small Maltese Shih Tzu dog, and apparently the German shepherds quite often face off against it across the fence. But sadly, on this occasion, they've come under the fence. Obviously, the little dog's gone inside, but somehow they've managed to squeeze their way through the doggy door. Caused an almighty mess, of course, in the house, with broken things everywhere and dirt, etc. But more concerning, caused very serious injuries to this little dog, and resulted in a vet bill of approximately $6,500 for this poor little dog, which has been obviously very, very badly injured, from what Peter writes in his email. The distressing thing about it, though, is that the neighbour, the husband anyway, has retreated from any contact in relation to the incident, and the Gold Coast City Council don't seem to be communicating very well in relation to the matter. They say they've returned both dogs to the owners. One of the dogs had gone back through the fence. The other one was still in Peter's backyard, and the Gold Coast City Council returned that dog after the neighbours said they would fix the fence. But the investigation is still ongoing, and they're not expecting an answer from the council in relation to that for some time. And the council have said that when an answer does come, the only way they can get the information or the report is by making applying for a right to information, which I think is totally ridiculous. Now, there are a couple of issues in this matter. The first one is, of course, the Gold Coast City Council's actions in the matter. And quite honestly, Peter, in relation to that, what I would be suggesting you do is get onto your local councillor in relation to it, because it sounds totally outrageous to me that you have to make a right of information application to find out what's going on in a situation where your dog has been taken to within an inch of its life as a result of the actions of these other two dogs. It is a common fence, so therefore, by the sound of it, it is a dividing fence. So responsibility for that fence does rest with both neighbours, which is both yourself and the adjoining neighbour. And so therefore, there may be some issues around those dogs getting into your yard. However, I would think common sense would dictate that the primary responsibility for ensuring the security of a yard to keep your dogs in rests with the owner of those dogs. So common sense to me would suggest that the owners of the 2 German Shepherds have a primary responsibility to ensure that their dogs can't get out of their property and cause this sort of injury. The tragedy is that if this sort of injury had been caused to a human, for example, to a small child, there'd be absolutely no question that these dogs would be destroyed as a result of this. And yet, because the injury is caused to a tiny little dog, which was undoubtedly very, very traumatised by the incident, it appears that the council take a different approach, although that being said, you do, of course, have to wait until the report comes out, which you mentioned here will be a couple of weeks. As to the vet bill that you were up for, you mention in here that you can approach QCAT for mediation on this incident in an endeavour to get compensation. You said that the female next door had offered some compensation but not the amount that it's cost you. What I would suggest you do is I'm not sure exactly where you live and therefore where might be the most convenient to you, but what I would suggest you do is probably call the Gold Coast Community Legal Centre and Advice Bureau. Their number is 55329611. And the good thing about the Gold Coast Community Legal Centre and Advice Bureau is that in addition to having their office at Railway Street in Southport, they also operate visited centres up and down the coast on various days. So if you were to call them, Peter, you'd be able to find where the most nearby office is that you could go to, or centre is where you could go to get some advice in relation to what's occurred here, and in particular in relation to what action you can take in relation to the injuries that have been caused to your dog. QCAT is obviously the best avenue to go through in terms of court action, which may potentially lead to a legally enforceable debt. But I think it's going to be a question of whether the $6,500 is regarded as a liquidated sum or damages. And there is some question over the jurisdiction of QCAT in relation to damages claims. But the last thing you want to be doing is ending up in the magistrates' court or in relation to the matter, because obviously in the magistrates' court costs can be awarded, and there are, of course, people are entitled to have legal representation, and so the minute you bring lawyers in and you're in a jurisdiction where costs can be ordered against you, the stakes are a lot higher, and it very well may be that you're going to spend more on legal fees than you're actually fighting about. So that's the reason why I would recommend the Gold Coast Community Legal Centre and Advice Bureau as the first port of call for you, Peter, in relation to this unfortunate incident. The other thing too would be the dividing fence, and in my view, I would be looking to bring an application to the QCAT, or you would first have to go under the Neighbourhood Dispute Resolution Act, which also contains the provisions in relation to dividing fences. But I would be looking for an order ultimately that the neighbours be required to repair the dividing fence to the extent necessary to ensure that these dogs can't get out of their yard again, because, or particularly can't come under your fence or the dividing fence into your yard. And my personal view would be that the cost of those repairs should in fact be the neighbour's cost rather than your cost. So that would just basically be the way that I think that I would deal with this matter. If I was you, I'd be trying to minimise your exposure to legal costs, because obviously Once you engage lawyers, of necessity they're going to charge in relation to the matter, whereas if you are able to enlist the services of one of the free lawyers through the Gold Coast Community Legal Centre, an advice bureau, they will certainly be able to point you in the right direction in relation to the matter. The other organisation that may be worth a call to would be the Animal Welfare League, just to see whether they can offer any advice, whether I'm sure they've probably had incidents similar to this that have occurred to pets which have ultimately come into their centre, and they may just have a little bit of advice that they would be able to give to you in relation to the matter and how you might be able to deal with it. So I hope that's of some assistance to you, Peter, and all the very best for your poor little dog. I know that particular breed, the Maltese Shih Tzu, because one of my sons actually has a Maltese Shih Tzu, and they're a very, very nice little dog, and it's just a terrible thing when something like this happens, and particularly the circumstances you describe where these dogs have not only got into your yard but have actually managed to crawl through the doggy door and get into your house and chase your little dog all around the house. It must have just been an absolutely terrible and frightening experience for the dog. The time on 4CRB, 16 minutes, just coming up to 17 minutes past 9. The Law and You is the program. 55208888 is the number. We haven't got any callers online at the moment, so if you have a question or a query that you'd like answered, why don't you give us a call right now, 55208888. We'll be back after this word from our sponsor.
Are you serious about losing weight? Vitadiet has been helping Australians lose weight and live healthier since 1987. All Vitadiet shakes, soups, bars and desserts are gluten-free, made in Australia, and have been perfected over 30 years. There is a Vitadiet eating plan, and yes, you do eat real food. Plus, use the Vitadiet ketone sticks to gauge your fat-burning performance. To find out how you could lose up to 3 kilos in your first week, visit vitadiet.com.au for your local pharmacy or call 1300 Shakes. Vitadiet. Time to try it?
Our sponsor.
The Harvey Norman Electrical Scratch and Dent Floor Stock Clearance Sale is on now. It's clearance time for all scratched, dented, X-display and superseded stock at Harvey Norman Electrical South Tweed. Fridges, washers, kitchen appliances, TVs, stereos and small appliances, it all has to go. Bring your truck, bring your trailer for the Harvey Norman Electrical Scratch and Dent Floor Stock Clearance Sale. And remember, nobody beats Harvey's prices. Nobody. Greenway Drive, South Tweed.
Go, Harvey, go! Our sponsor.
Oh, and a little bit of a musical interlude there as well. Nothing better from 4CRB where the music is so good. This is The Law and You, the phone number 55208888. If you have a question or a query that you'd like answered on the program today, why don't you give us a call right now? That number again, 55208888. Now, you may remember from last week that a caller rang in. It was the mother of a fellow who apparently is terminally ill, and the query was whether you can shorten the 12-month separation period in order to obtain a divorce. He was wanting to get his affairs in order in terms of his spouse, and I said to the caller that my understanding was that it is not possible to do that, because family law is obviously not my area of practice, mine being asset protection and estate planning, that I would speak to Margaret Miller of our office, who's one of the lawyers there who, along with Alex Wynne, does a lot of family law, and she confirmed my thoughts that unfortunately it isn't possible to shorten that 12 months separation requirement for a divorce. But she did confirm the advice which I gave to the caller, and that was that although it may not be possible to shorten that 12 months and therefore obtain a divorce, which would effectively take the spouse out of the class of people who might be entitled to bring a claim against the estate for provision after the death. Nonetheless, it would be possible to immediately bring an application for property settlement, so that so that he could at least settle property. And if a property settlement order was made before his passing, or those proceedings instituted before his passing, then hopefully that would deal with the property issue and minimise the likelihood of any claim on the estate. But enough of that. We've got a couple of callers online, and we'll say a very good morning to Robin. G'day, Robin. How are you?
Oh, well, thanks, John.
That's
Just
good.
a quick question. Just a quick question regarding the terms power of attorney and executor. Can you describe, are they the same or different?
No, totally different, or not totally different, but quite different. A power of attorney is a document that you have whilst you're alive. So you, as the principal, can appoint someone as your attorney during your lifetime, and that person is entitled to look after your affairs whilst you're alive. The minute you die and the attorney becomes aware that you've passed away, the power of attorney ceases to have any effect. It ceases to have any effect on death, but the attorney is excused if they were to do something before they became aware that you've passed away. But once you pass away, the power to deal with your affairs then passes to the executor of your will. So the executor is appointed under your will, and that's a document that has effect from the time of your death, and the power of attorney is the document which ceases at the point where you do pass away.
Great. And the other quick question attached to the executor is what you appoint one. Do you just appoint one, or can you appoint?
No, you
My
can.
point is, could you appoint one, and then if that person something, whatever, could it automatically have a backup?
Oh, definitely, and we always recommend that to our clients. We like to see people appoint a number of attorneys if they can. Ideally, you can either appoint two people jointly and severally, which means either one of them can act, so that if one of them were to become unable, the other can act. Or alternatively, you can have a power of attorney which says that I appoint my husband, but if he is unable or unwilling, then I appoint my daughter, for example. So they're what we refer to as the alternate attorney.
The alternate. That's terrific. And could you just rank, like 1, 2, 3 or something like that?
Yes, you can. Yes, you certainly can.
Yeah,
No problem at all.
All right. Thanks so much.
Okay, Robin, all the very best. Time on 4CRB, 22 and a half minutes past 9, as we say a very good morning to Mary. G'day, Mary. How are you?
Good, thank you.
How can I help?
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. My granddaughter is 25, and she's not that very well, and she is a single mother to a boy of 4-year-old.
Right.
And it passed my mind, what would happen if something happens to my granddaughter, to the little boy of 4? I'm over 80. As much as I would like to look after him, I don't think anybody will agree with this. What would you suggest that I should tell my granddaughter to prepare for the worst if something happens to her? What are the procedures, please?
Yes. Do you know whether the father of the child was put on the birth certificate?
Yes.
Right, because
he's no good.
Yep.
And he's away, locked up for some time.
Right.
So please, I don't think.
Yes.
I don't think even if he was free, where he's locked up, they don't live together.
Yes.
They haven't seen one another. So this is a bit awkward situation.
Yes.
But then the good thing is her cousin, which that means their mothers are sisters, have same age, only 3 months difference from the boy of 4. And because we talked, she said, Nana, I'm quite happy to adopt.
Right. Well, there would be some problems.
So what are the procedures, please?
There would be some problems with adoption because, unfortunately, because the father's name is on the birth certificate, he would need to consent. But what I would suggest that she do at a minimum is to appoint the cousin as the guardian of the child, and to express the desire in her will that the child become or that the cousin become the guardian of the child. She would need to leave her estate in a manner which is going to ensure that the child is supported. But what she should also do, Mary, is also get some legal advice. Whereabouts does she live? Is she on the Gold Coast or does she live elsewhere?
Gold Coast.
Gold
and
Coast.
The other one in Melbourne.
Okay,
the cousin in Melbourne.
Right. Well, what I would be suggesting that she do is either go to the Gold Coast Community Legal Centre and Advice Bureau in the first instance to get some free legal advice, or alternatively to the Robina Community Legal Service, which operates at the, it's actually now called My Community Legal, but formerly the Robina Community Legal Centre operates from 6:30pm until 8:30pm on a Thursday evening. And quite often they have lawyers there who specialise in family law, who would be able to give her more detailed advice in relation to the question that she has and how she might be able to go about ensuring that the chances of the father getting custody of the child are minimised.
Okay, I appreciate your advice. It sounds good to me.
Yes. Now, do you have a pen there at the moment, Mary?
I do.
Okay,
yes, I do.
So if you write this number down, the Gold Coast Community Legal Centre and Advice Bureau, their telephone number is 5532
5532.
Yes, 9611.
9611.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I did mention them earlier when I was talking about the first email that I had about the dog attack. Now, the great thing about the Community Legal Service is that they, although their main office is in Railway Street, Southport, they have visited centres up and down the coast every week. So what you would be advised to do would be to ring that Community Legal Service, see where the closest centre is to your granddaughter, and she could then make a time to see them. Now, if she works and therefore isn't able to get there during the times that they are operational, the alternative to that would be My Community Legal, which is formerly the Robina Community Legal Centre. They're in the Gold Coast City Council's Robina Community Centre, which is just near the big shopping centre. And they operate 6:30 to 8:30pm. You don't make a call to go and see them. You just rock up because they don't take appointments.
Okay. Good
okay.
advice. I appreciate that.
Okay, Mary, all the very best.
I love your service. Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too. Thank you. Bye-bye now. And the time is just coming up to 27.5 past 9, and we have Ron online. No, Ron has disappeared. We did have Ron there, so maybe we'll hear from you later, Ron. Oh, they always accuse me of dad jokes in my family. I'm sorry, my children, my grandchildren, they all think my jokes are hopeless, and I can understand why if they're at that standard. Well, look, thank you very much for all of the people who've called in today and made for an interesting program, and particularly to Peter for his very detailed email that he sent me about that dog attack incident, which I certainly do find very distressing. This is John Fradgley from the Bell League Group. It's been great to be with you this morning for The Law and You. Of course, I'll be back next week for another program where we can again present more free legal advice to you. As I said, you need to get on that telephone as early as you possibly can if you wish to participate in the program, so please don't leave the calls to the last 5 or 10 minutes of the program. I know quite often it's the program coming to air that is the prompt to get you to make the call, but if you perhaps think of something during the week and you think, oh gee, I must ring and ask about that on The Law and You, write the question down so that you've got a reminder for it, and then of course on the Tuesday morning you can immediately think, oh yes, when it gets to 9 o'clock I can make that call and get straight through and get my question answered, because the benefit of you ringing, of course, is that not only do we answer your query, but there may be a lot of people out there listening who are driving or whatever and simply can't get access to the telephone, especially with this new proposed mobile phone laws where you'll be fined $1,000 if you speak on the mobile phone while you're or pick up your mobile phone while you're driving. So that's yet another incentive to ensure that you certainly don't touch those mobile phones. So this is John Fradgley. It's been great to have your company this morning. I'll look forward to being back with you again next week. But as always, until then, it's goodbye and God bless.